Hello there. 2024 will probably be the year that it all kicks off in Europe as social tensions mount and the people reject globalism. But then again, I've said in the past that the European Union, as a body, is going to have a lot of problems as EU nation-state nationalism takes hold and more of those who want to defend their country's right to exist get elected into both national parliaments and the EU Parliament. And those countries are the ones that are more likely to try and install EU-sceptic commissioners into the EU Commission and send EU-sceptic ministers and leaders to the EU Council. Now, the one thing to note here, though, is that the EU Commission President, whoever takes over from the present incumbent Ursula von der Leyen when her term ends in June, has a hand in selecting nation-state commissioners. Member states nominate their commissioners in consultation with the Commission President, something that I read as the President having the power to reject the wrong sort of candidate. And those commissioners have to also swear an oath that they will serve the EU above their own nation-states' needs. They have to act for the EU even if it damages their own country. That's how the EU system works. And it is the Commission President through the Commission that shapes all EU policy. So getting someone into the Commission who will question the status quo would be quite hard. Now, many people are looking at the Hungarian Prime Minister, Viktor Orban, as some sort of anti-EU hero. But is he? Orban has called for change in Brussels and has been more of an ally to Putin's Russia than to Zelensky's Ukraine, something that many see as the right and heroic thing to do. Now, I'm not going to argue that one way or the other. All I'll do is point to the political shenanigans that goes on. In mid-December, there was a vote in the EU Council of Ministers on the matter of further support for Ukraine. And Orban agreed to a request from the German Chancellor Scholz to leave the room during the vote so that the Council could technically vote through support for Ukraine unanimously. Because on this issue they do need unanimity to act. And Orban duly left the room. Had Orban been in the room, he would probably have felt the need to vote no and veto it. But he didn't. So he can claim he didn't actively vote for it. But I say standing up and leaving the room to allow others to achieve their aim is an active vote in favour. Ukraine got its support. But what, if anything, did Hungary get out of it? It just shows you how the powerful get their way. Now, you may feel that this was the right outcome, but more importantly, the next outcome may be one that you do not agree with. But further, even if the EU Council and EU Parliament have a significant number of new Eurosceptic faces, the one thing that won't change is the EU establishment. Just like a UK general election, where 200 or 300 fresh new MPs get elected every 5 years or so. But the House of Lords remains virtually unchanged. The Westminster machine still contains all the old Mandarin faces, and Whitehall carries on regardless of who is in the House of Commons anyway. All that is now so self-evident. Our votes mean very little to how the country is run, and it will make no difference to who and how many are let into the country in the future either. Right now, the UK government concentrates our minds on illegal immigration, saying they are pulling out all the stops to combat it, while the other arms of government are so-called legally waving 1 million or more a year into the country. And as far as I can see, the same can be said of the EU blob too. But further, these elites might actually be viewing a bit of a kicking at the ballot box as a good thing. But why would that be, you ask? Well, because elections and campaigning are a great way to get the masses to let off a bit of steam. It's a relief valve. And I think the elites probably think that a relief valve putting out a large whistle every 5 years is no bad thing. Because as many people have pointed out before, if elections changed anything of real substance, we would definitely not be allowed to vote. And once the proles believe they've won the day by getting someone who listens to them into the hallowed halls of power, they go quietly back to their homes and jobs where the elites can continue to ignore them, tax them and do as they please. I mean, look at Brexit. They've managed to keep the UK under control so far, haven't they? And not even the splitting of the UK down the Irish Sea has done much more than generate a few grumbles. And look at how close we came to complete control by international elites during the pandemic. And no, that hasn't ended. No, the WHO health emergency plans will be signed up to by the UK establishment, thus removing us of more of our rights. And we walk obediently and sheep-like into every net zero imposition that is heaped upon us, with most believing, without looking up from their Xboxes, everything that anyone who professes to be a government expert says on the matter. Even though it's proving to be hideously expensive and our competitors in places like China are running off with all the prizes. And we've also allowed our establishment to reward some very nasty pieces of work who stole billions upon billions during the financially lax years of the pandemic. That money was never ever seriously chased down by anyone in government. And the opposition does not seem to have the real determination to chase it down either, apart from a few stern words many moons ago. I bet they're all very happy that things have moved on since. But any one of us who tried it on with the taxman would take a veritable hammering, wouldn't we? Yes, 2024 may well see a change in how people vote. And I'm hoping that does not mean more people than ever resigning from the ballot box procedures because it never makes any difference anyway. A low turnout is not what is required. No, now is the time for people to cancel the big legacy parties that have let us all down so badly for decades. We need to turn out in droves and hammer those parties and vote for something different. Anything. Just don't vote for any of them. Labour, Tory, Lib Dems, Greens. They've all had a direct hand in helping create the mess you see around you right now. And if anyone tells you that if you don't vote blue you'll get red or vice versa, just tell them it makes no difference because they are both cheeks of the same. Right now, Labour is cynically saying nothing, in the hope that they can keep their mouths shut and walk into number 10, and then wreak their lefty worst on us. And the Tories are cynically trying to work out the best time to give us some of our money back via tax cuts to give them the best chance of retaining power so they can continue their nation-wrecking work. We cannot allow this to continue. 2024 must be the year of change, or it will signal the year that the UK ended. All those politicians, all those lords, all those appointees, all those civil servants, none of them have our interests or the interests of the UK at heart. Otherwise, this country would not be in the mess it's in. It's that simple.